I'm Barry Eben, co-chair of the Wellness Committee. My other half, John Hamm, is probably licking poi off of his fingers as he and his wife Marianne are enjoying the winter at their condo on the Big Island in Hawaii. I feel so sorry for them. Somebody has to do it, yeah. So welcome to the welcoming committees. First in, I think, a very long time, if ever, at least within our current institutional memory, nutrition program in Anderson Hall. Heart and mind healthy diets for older adults. Can I have a couple of volunteers for Q&A later to move mics? Thanks. Yeah, when it's time, they're sitting right up here in the front. Thank you. Before we jump in, I want to express appreciation and offer kudos to the Environment Committee and to Bill Roach and to Dining Services and to Jeff Townley and his crew for putting on the wonderful series of Thursday buffets, one of which happens this evening, which focuses on the cuisine of Monaco. And I certainly want to encourage people to partake. The food has been interesting, and prior to these buffets, there are brief talks by our speaker Jessica and sous chef Ben that relate to the cuisine, and I hope you partake. And thanks, Bill, and your group for helping make all of that happen. There is a rumor floating around that Jeff Townley, because of the Monaco theme tonight, decided to help with the ambiance by converting half of the dining room into a casino. I have tried to fact check that rumor. I can find no supportive evidence for it, I'm sorry to say, but given national trends these days, I assume that half of you will believe it anyway. I'm also going to alert you to the fact that after the Q&A, I'm going to ask you to hang around for an extra few minutes, and I'll explain that briefly when the Q&A is done. So now, let me introduce Jessica Bratrude. Jessica is a registered dietitian who has been with us at Horizon House for the last 2.5 years. Jessica did her academic work at Washington State University. Her primary focus is on the nutritional needs of those of us who reside in assisted living. Previous to coming here, she worked with the Neurology service at Swedish and also did health coaching for people who have chronic illnesses. And I'll leave it to her to add to that. So would you join me in offering a warm, well, it's not really a welcome, but hello to Jessica Bratrude.
Hello. Barry had good jokes. Now I am going to have to come up with some jokes too. So welcome to our nutrition talk. I'm excited to talk today because a healthy dietary pattern can help people achieve and maintain good health and reduce the risk of chronic diseases. And it's never too late to make these improvements in your diet. People at any stage of life can benefit by making changes to more nutrient-dense foods. So let's get started. So Barry already gave me a nice introduction, but I'm Jessica, and I've been at Horizon House for a couple of years now. I am from Seattle, and these are my 3 kids that I'm raising in North Seattle. This one saw the slide, and he thought it was pretty funny that I was showing them eating ice cream when I was supposed to be talking about eating healthy foods. So maybe there's my joke for you. And then, like Barry said, before coming to Horizon House, I worked just up the street at Swedish Cherry Hill in the Neurology department, mostly in the ICU, helping people with their nutrition after they'd had strokes. And I also worked at Primera as a health coach, helping people make lifestyle changes if they had a chronic disease. So today we are going to talk about some styles of eating that are beneficial for our heart health and our mind health. 2 of them we'll kind of cover quickly because you might already be familiar with it, and then we'll dive a little bit more into the 3rd one. Then we'll cover some nutrients that we want to make sure we get enough of as we get older, and we'll talk about how we can incorporate all this into how we're eating here at Horizon House. So, not only is exercise and adequate sleep important to keep your body and mind healthy, but having a proper diet is just as important. The foods and beverages that we put into our body impacts your mind just as much as your body. We're living longer, and with that, our chance of developing a chronic disease goes up. So it's even more important to make sure that we're fueling ourselves properly. Starting young may have the greatest benefit to your health, but it's never too late to change your diet and start protecting your mind and your body. And for those of us who may already have a chronic disease, making a few lifestyle changes can help minimize any negative effects that this may have on your health. We're going to start by talking about the DASH diet. Who's heard of the DASH diet? A few of us, yeah. It's a common diet used to treat high blood pressure and lower our bad cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol. And DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. It's a diet that's really rich in potassium, calcium, and magnesium. These 3 nutrients in particular have been shown to lower your blood pressure when you consume them in adequate amounts. It focuses on vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, but it also makes sure to include low-fat dairy products every day to get that calcium, and the protein mainly comes from fish, poultry, beans, and nuts. It limits foods that are high in sodium, added sugars, and saturated fats. There are 2 levels of the DASH diet. The standard DASH diet is a 2,300 milligram sodium diet, but the version that probably applies to most of us in this room is the lower sodium version. This version is for people that may already have high blood pressure or are over the age of 60. So most of us here are going to want to follow the 1,500 milligram a day sodium. So of the sodium we eat, about 15% of it is naturally already in our food, and then 70% comes from eating processed food. Only about 11% comes from using the salt shaker. The top 10 sources of sodium in our diet are bread, pizza, cold cuts, soups, burritos, snacks like chips, popcorn, pretzels, and then chicken, because it's often injected with a saline solution. So when you're shopping for chicken, you want to make sure that it's just chicken and not also salt water. And cheese is another heavily salted item. So when following the lower sodium version of the DASH diet, you're going to want to make sure you are limiting those processed foods. So what does the DASH diet look like? Its base is fruits and vegetables, also whole grains, that low-fat dairy to get your calcium, mainly the protein coming from seafood, poultry, and lean meats, and also having some healthy fats from nuts and oils like olive oil. So again, you want to reduce salt on the DASH diet. So reading labels to choose no salt added options, using herbs and spices instead of salt when you're cooking. If you're using frozen vegetables, making sure that they don't have any salt added to them, and eating out at restaurants less all help lower the salt that you're eating. So what would this look like in a day if you were following the DASH diet? So for example, you could have a cup of oatmeal. That would be a good source of whole grains, and then maybe 2 servings of fruit with your breakfast, and a cup of fat-free milk to get your calcium. For lunch, the protein is coming from hummus and falafel, because that's a good way to get protein from beans and legumes, and then really loading that lunch up with vegetables to get that potassium, which has a positive effect on lowering your blood pressure. For dinner, having fish as your protein, again, another serving of whole grains and another serving of vegetables. And then you really want to limit your sweets on the DASH diet. So the dessert here is fruit. And then snack, again, another serving of dairy and another serving of fruit. So it's pretty simple. Just making sure that your fridge is stocked with fruits, vegetables, fish, hummus, low-fat dairy products. Oh, is there any questions about the DASH diet? Quite a few of us were familiar. Yes. Oh. Oh, falafel is just like a little vegetable and chickpea ball eaten in Mediterranean type diets. Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to do the DASH diet when so much of the meat in the dining room is beef.
Oh, yeah. At the end, I have some sample meals of how we can do this in the terrace dining room. So we'll go over that more.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Sorry, I'm making the helpers work harder because we're having more than one question.
During the summertime, well, I had to go to the doctor because I was fainting. I kept passing out, or almost. And so apparently what happened was I drank so much water that, again, I was depleting my sodium supply. So the first thing the doctor told me, she said, get yourself a big bag of potato chips. And she says she never gives that advice to anybody except in the summertime when she sees that people, even though I thought I drank, I thought I was hydrated, but I was too hydrated. And so sodium, yes, we have to look at the seasons.
Yes, sodium is definitely an essential nutrient. You do need it to keep your blood pressure up. To 3/4 of people are sensitive to salt, and so that's the people that should probably be following the lower sodium. But there is a percentage of people that are not that sensitive to sodium. They could maybe get away with eating more. And then if you're you're sweating, exercising a lot, that could change your sodium needs as well.
How many calories is in that sample?
Oh, I would say this is probably about a 1,500 calorie diet. In the samples I have coming up, I have that all labeled out more for us.
I'm sorry, for each meal?
No, the whole day.
The whole day?
What is a good range for blood pressure?
Over blood pressure? Well, I would say, I mean, normal blood pressure is 120 over 80, but everyone, and according to their conditions, is going to have a different range that they're following. So I would ask your doctor.
What your blood pressure should be, roughly?
Yes. Okay. So that was the DASH diet for controlling blood pressure. And now the Mediterranean is a very popular diet. I bet a lot of us have heard of that. Yeah, more than the DASH diet. It blends the basics of healthy eating with the traditional flavors and cooking methods of the people in the Mediterranean region. It's considered one of the healthiest diets overall. Studies have shown that people living in the regions of Greece, France, and parts of Italy live longer than any other population, and compared to Americans are less likely to die of coronary artery disease or develop cancer. And then the latest research suggests that the Mediterranean diet can help ease the pain of rheumatoid arthritis and reduce the risk of dementia. So it's similar to the DASH diet, but it also emphasizes more anti-inflammatory foods that help with that arthritis and preventing dementia. So the basics. Oh, coming up. Yeah. So Mediterranean diet is similar in that every day you want to be focusing on basing your diet on vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and plant foods. But specifically, the Mediterranean diet calls out every week having fish, also poultry, beans, legumes, and eggs, and enjoying moderate amounts of dairy product, and limiting how much red meat you eat, and limiting the added sugar in your diet. The Mediterranean diet also has a focus on lifestyle, which is enjoying your meals with others, being active regularly, and if you do already drink alcohol, choosing wine as that option, and only in moderation. Now, if you don't drink alcohol, don't start. And you can get some of the same antioxidants from having a glass of grape juice as well. So this is what the Mediterranean diet looks like in a graphic form. It shows the base of enjoying your meals with others and remembering to stay active. Again, a plant-based diet, meaning whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. The fish and seafood is an important part of it, and then less so other meat products, and just sparingly using sweets. Sugar sparingly, yeah. The foundation of the Mediterranean diet are meals that are built around vegetables, fruit, herbs, nuts, beans, and whole grains. So you can think of dairy products and meat as more of your garnish or side dish. Red meat is really only eaten once in a while. A special part of the Mediterranean diet is the healthy fats coming from olive oil and fish specifically. When you replace saturated fat is any fat that is solid at room temperature, like butter you can leave out on the counter and it doesn't melt, so it is a saturated fat. But your olive oil is liquid at room temperature, so it's unsaturated. If you replace saturated with unsaturated, you will reduce your bad cholesterol. Yes.
Sorry, Bill. I want to point out how the TDR could do better
with the Mediterranean diet. Last night they had linguine with clams. Linguine with clams should be made with olive oil and clams, and basically that's all. And they drenched it in butter. And it shouldn't, I mean, it shouldn't have butter to begin with, but they do things like that all the time. So they just never follow recipes, ethnic recipes, the way they should be made. So
That's
you
a good
might
note.
talk to them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Another important healthy fat source in the Mediterranean diet is fatty fish. That's because they are full of omega-3 fatty acids. These help fight inflammation and reduce triglycerides, which is fat in the blood. And consuming adequate amounts of omega-3 fatty acids can reduce your risk of stroke and heart failure. So, to eat the Mediterranean way, eat more fruits and vegetables. So you want to eat 2 to 3 servings of fruit and 4 or more servings of vegetables a day. So what would that look like in practice? Maybe adding a banana to your oatmeal in the morning and then having an apple as a snack. Then continuing on to lunch, having a side salad, and then at dinner maybe ordering 2 sides of vegetables. And so that would make sure you're getting all those fruits and vegetables. Choosing whole grain bread. So if you're not already doing that, maybe looking at some places that you could make swaps. So oatmeal in the morning, when you order a sandwich, choosing whole grain bread for your dinner if brown rice is available, or some other grain like quinoa, choosing that instead of white rice are all great swaps to make to increase those whole grains. Using unsaturated fat, we just talked about that. So on the Mediterranean diet, they don't want you to have more than about 1 tablespoon of saturated fat a day. So that could mean instead of using butter on your toast in the morning, using a nut butter, cooking with olive oil, like we said. Eat more seafood. Aim to try to eat fish 2 times a week. So if you're ordering a red meat every week, maybe switching that out 1 time to fish. Get nuts. So you want to eat a serving of nuts most days of the week on this diet. That means about 1/4 of a cup. So having that in your apartment to have as a snack, or maybe adding that to yogurt or cereal. Enjoy some dairy, preferably choosing low fat or fat free to reduce the saturated fat that you're eating. So that could be yogurt or adding non-fat milk to your cereal. Reducing red meat and processed meat. So again, if you're choosing fish and poultry more often, that will kind of just happen naturally. And finally, spice it up. So use herbs and spices to boost flavors. They have some health benefits, and then it helps you reduce your salt as well. So that kind of wraps up our Mediterranean diet. But it turns out what's good for your heart is also good for your brain. So we talked about the DASH diet to help us reduce our blood pressure and our risk of stroke. And then we talked about the Mediterranean diet to improve arthritis symptoms and reduce the risk of dementia. And so studies have found that following these 2 diets in conjunction reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease and cognitive decline. And this new eating plan is called the MIND diet. So MIND stands for Mediterranean Dash Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay. So really rolls off the tongue. So a lot, this diet was developed by the Rush University Medical Center, and studies found that following the MIND diet reduced the risk of Alzheimer's by 53% in people who adhered to it really rigorously. But even in people who just followed it loosely, it reduced their risk of Alzheimer's by 35%. So even if you just take a couple of tips away, you could make some improvements to your health. So like the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet, the MIND diet focuses on plant-based foods, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats. There are 10 foods that you want to include and 5 foods that you want to avoid. Now, the 10 foods that we want to include are really similar to what we've been talking about, with the exception of 2 things that the MIND diet really wants us to focus on having, and we'll focus on that in the next slide. We'll briefly look at the foods to avoid. Red meat, no more than 1 time per week on this MIND diet, which could be a big change for a lot of people. Saturated fat coming from butter, only 1 tablespoon a day. Cheese, only once a week, which a lot of people are cheese lovers, I know. And so you could be eating cheese every day on your sandwich, so that could be a big change for some people. Pastries and sweets, less than 5 times per week. So that's kind of something to analyze too. And then fried and fast foods only once a week. So those are really more special occasion items.
Question.
Yes.
What about goat cheese?
I think it still falls under the same, maybe easier to digest, but still has saturated fat. Now, the 2 foods that the MIND diet really calls out that the other diets haven't brought attention to yet are leafy greens and berries. The MIND diet specifically, even though it's still 4 servings of vegetables a week like the other diet, specifically one of those servings needs to be leafy greens every day. Dark leafy greens like spinach, kale, Swiss chard. And then the other vegetables you're eating, you want to make sure you're eating the rainbow, as they say, and that will give you a wider variety of vitamins. And then berries, you want to be having them specifically at least 2 times a week. And that's about 1 cup of raw berries, which is a pretty big serving. So if you have a smaller appetite, to get your 2 servings, you might need to divide that over a few days. And I know it's not that easy in the winter, but frozen berries are picked at their height of ripeness, and then you can add them into your oatmeal and things like that. So, oh, I'm behind on my slides, sorry. Okay. So to try and get your leafy greens, try to have a small green salad every day. And then don't just limit your berries to a meal. You could think of them as a snack. Try to keep them at the forefront of your mind, because these foods have been shown to be particularly beneficial to our cognitive health. Proteins and fats, minimum fish 1 time a week for those omega-3s, but 2 is really better. Almost always choosing poultry or fish over red meat, since the MIND diet limits the red meat to only 1 time per week. And then specifically eating nuts 5 times a week at a 1/4 of a cup serving has been shown to really be beneficial for our heart and our mind. And then like the other diets, focusing on beans and whole grains. Beans are a great alternative protein source to help reduce that saturated fat, but still allow you to get enough protein. And the whole grains really increase the fiber. The soluble and insoluble fiber are going to help your digestion and also reduce your cholesterol. And then the last part of the MIND diet is remembering to hydrate. So drinking plenty of water. If you're not really a water drinker, maybe try to make it more interesting. You could try herbal teas or sparkling waters, remembering to carry a water bottle around with you. So how can we start the MIND diet today? So maybe making a goal to at least replace one of your red meat meals this week with a fish meal, and replacing 2 red meats with 2 poultries. You can think of your plate kind of in sections. You may have seen the My Plate, healthy plate model, where they take you, when you're filling your plate, divide it in half, fill half of it with vegetables, and then the remaining half divide again. Only 1/4 is going to be your protein, and then 1/4 is going to be your whole grains. Trying to always choose olive oil over saturated fats, and then snacking on nuts most days of the week.
I have a question about the nuts.
Where is that coming from? Oh, there.
Are peanuts as good as tree nuts?
Yeah, they would be included in the nut category.
Thank you.
Just if you're watching your, so some people are trying to increase your sodium. The peanuts might be better than the potato chips. But looking for unsalted nuts if you're someone that is sensitive to salt. Okay, so we kind of talked in about broad food groups. Now we're going to talk about specific nutrients that are important to make sure we're going to get enough of. We're going to talk about them in terms of what foods to eat to get them, rather than focusing on supplements. In general, as we age, our ability to absorb nutrients tends to decrease. This, combined with often a decrease in appetite that can come as we age, puts people at risk for nutritional deficiencies. So really, if you find you're eating less, you have to kind of think every bite counts and choose the most nutrient-dense versions of things. So the first nutrient we're going to focus on is vitamin B12. And this is one that our ability to absorb starts to weaken after we enter our 60s. It's important because it keeps our nervous system running smoothly. It's involved in our red blood cell formation. And if we don't have enough of it, we can feel tired or even have neurological issues. The B12 can be a little tricky because it's mainly found in animal products, and as we've been talking about, a lot of the things in my picture, the red meat, we're trying to decrease our intake of. So we have to work around this to make sure we're getting enough B12. So if you are eating 2 to 3 servings of dairy a day, or eating 2 eggs and a full serving of chicken, you are probably getting enough B12. If you are not eating that much, you might not be getting enough. And if you are a vegan or a vegetarian, it is difficult to get your B12. Vegans and vegetarians might want to consider cooking with nutritional yeast. 1.5 tablespoons of this nutritional yeast can have your whole daily value of B12. Has anyone eaten nutritional yeast before? A few of us. Okay, well, it's like a yellow powder. It has a kind of a funny cheese taste to it, so you might have to do some experimenting with what you make with it. Chef Ben made a mac and cheese. It didn't have any dairy in it, but he used the nutritional yeast powder in it to give it that flavor. So you can come up with some creative ways to use it. So the next B vitamin is B6, and this, our ability to absorb this B vitamin also decreases as we age, so it's another one we have to look out for. It helps our nervous system and our immune system, but lucky for us, this one is in animal foods, but also it's in a lot of the foods that we have been talking about trying to eat more of with the MIND diet. So things like chickpeas, dark leafy greens, bananas, and citrus foods. So if you are not already eating 3 servings of fruit and 1 serving of fish every day, you might be deficient in that. So try increasing your citrus foods, increasing the amount of times you eat fish per week to get more B6 and boost your immune system.
Is shrimp considered
Shrimp is considered a seafood. So yes, that counts as a
it's
fish
not
serving.
fatty, but
Yeah, it does not have as much omega-3s to give that benefit in the Mediterranean diet, but it definitely is a good choice to replace the red meat.
Jessica,
He snuck in the back. He's listening.
the one thing that seems in my mind there's no substitute for are the leafy greens. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I said that we should be eating a serving of them every day, so you're definitely right. So having a side of cooked greens or a salad every day is a good strategy. Yeah.
Don't about 50% of us have kidney 3A or so? And that says that's complicated, but
Oh, so then you're watching your electrolytes.
also potassium, also, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was told not to go heavy on leafy greens, which so far I kind of ignore, but
Well, and that's the other thing. Some people are on medications that can interact with some of these leafy greens. In general, of course, speak to your doctor, but in general, if you're eating about the same amount of them every day, then your doctor can dose your blood thinners and whatnot to accommodate that. Problems occur if you don't eat any vegetables all week and then suddenly you decide to have a spinach salad, and it can kind of throw off your levels of that. But yeah, if you have advanced kidney issues, then certainly I would say maybe talk to a nutritionist one-on-one about specific recommendations. Okay, so the next nutrient we're going to talk about is magnesium, and it relaxes the smooth muscle of your vascular walls to keep muscles supple, and for that reason, for some people, it can lower blood pressure. If you don't have enough magnesium, and it's estimated that maybe 75% of us are not eating enough magnesium, it's been linked to sleep disorders, impaired thinking, heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and depression. So it is in a lot of the things that we have talked about eating today, especially the nuts. So if you leave this presentation having a goal of having that serving of nuts most days, then that is going to increase your magnesium. To meet your magnesium needs, it would be a good idea to every day have nuts and 2 servings of greens and 2 servings of whole grains. So if you had that every day, you could meet your magnesium requirement. Dark chocolate does have magnesium, and if you were going to choose a sweet, that would be a great choice.
Other question?
Yes.
What about supplements for magnesium?
You know, the magnesium supplement trend is on the rise, especially for sleep. And I would say, ask your doctor. So we've talked about omega-3s and their benefits and why they're part of the Mediterranean diet and the MIND diet, but most of us are not eating enough of them because most of us are not eating fish that regularly. But they improve our brain and heart health, and they decrease the fat in our blood. Yeah, fattier fish like salmon are higher in omega-3s. Even mackerel and anchovies, things like that. Oh, she asked if there's some Sorry, I'm not used to your miking system. She asked if there's some fish that are higher in omega-3s than others. If you do not eat fish, you can have chia seeds or flax seeds to help boost your omega-3 intake. Yes?
Flax seeds, my doctor recommended that I absolutely eat flax seeds, but not whole, ground up, because whole, they just go straight through your body almost without any benefit.
True.
So I have flaxseed meal in the morning with my oatmeal.
Yes, that's a great option. Yeah, and that is a good point. If you cannot find ground flaxseed, then you can run it through a coffee grinder to grind it up. And if you don't want to deal with any of that, the chia seeds, you don't have to ground. You can eat them whole. Yes? Oh, is flaxseed oil or flaxseed oil capsules a good choice? I would say that is, the oil is what's giving you the omega-3. I like the option of the meal because then you also get fiber. So I would go with the ground flaxseed. Which brings us to our fiber, which a lot of us are not getting enough of. Our digestive system slows down with age. Not getting enough fiber can lead to constipation and weight gain. And soluble fiber, like in oatmeal, that absorbs things in your digestive tract, that helps draw out the cholesterol, and it can protect against heart-related problems. People that eat the most fiber have the lowest risk of heart disease. So there's the fiber goals posted up here. So if you were to eat 1 cup of berries, 1 apple with the skin on, a half a cup of beans, and 1 cup of Swiss chard, you would be getting 24 grams of fiber. Yes?
Is there any difference in the nutritional value between raw and cooked vegetables?
Is there a difference in the nutritional value? I would say for the fiber, no, the fiber is going to stay in there. Sometimes the water-soluble vitamins, like vitamin C, if you're cooking the vegetable in water, it could leach out into the water. If you're roasting it, the vitamins are all going to stay in there. So if you cook, you're going to want to eat the liquid that comes off of the vegetables to make sure you're getting all of the vitamins, if you're worried about that. Yeah. And again, you can go above this recommendation. So in addition to eating the beans and fruits and vegetables that I just mentioned to get to that 24 grams of fiber, adding in some whole grains and going above and beyond is going to be beneficial to your digestion and help your heart as well. And finally, vitamin D, we talk a lot about in Seattle because our bodies make it from sunlight, and this time of year we don't get a lot of sunlight. So how can we help get it in our food? We want to make sure we're getting enough vitamin D because it helps our bones absorb calcium. It improves healing in fractures. And we can get it through eating fatty fish. So that keeps coming up again. And interesting, you can get it through some mushrooms. So traditional white mushrooms have almost no vitamin D, but if you can find mushrooms that have been exposed to UV light, then a serving of mushrooms can have almost all your daily value of the vitamin D.
Question.
Yes.
Would that be crimini mushrooms? What kind of mushrooms?
Well, the traditional white mushrooms at the store, you can find one that say like sun exposed or UV exposed. But the crimini, I'll look it up for you. Okay, and in conjunction with that vitamin D to promote your bone health, your nerve function, and your muscle movements is calcium. Getting adequate calcium helps slow down the process of osteoporosis, which is age-related bone loss. And we talked about the importance of calcium for our blood pressure as well. We want to aim for about 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day. So that's going to mostly come from dairy products and leafy greens. Maybe 3 low-fat dairy products a day, a few servings of leafy greens. If you do eat canned fish with soft bones, that's an excellent source of calcium. We talked about choosing the right protein sources, but getting enough protein can help prevent the gradual loss of muscle, which can happen as early as our 40s and continue beyond that. So eating adequate protein supports your cell growth and repair. And older adults need more protein than younger adults to help preserve their muscle mass and promote recovery from illness. So younger adults can get away with eating about 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per kilogram of their body weight, but older adults want to aim for 1.2 grams per kilogram of their body weight. So what does that mean? If you weigh 120 pounds, that's 65 grams of protein a day. If you weigh 150 pounds, that's 82 grams of protein. And if you weigh 175 pounds, that's 95 grams of protein a day. So that's quite a big protein goal. So let's kind of break this into a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. At breakfast, if you had a cup of Greek yogurt, and then at lunch, if you added half a cup of beans to your lunch, and then at dinner had about a 3.5 ounce chicken breast, you would be at 60 grams of protein. So you would about be at what the 120-pound person needed. So thinking about choosing a good source of protein at every single meal and snack to meet that protein goal. And finally, it's important that we're getting enough water. We tend to drink less as we get older. This tends to occur in our 70s and beyond because our sensation of thirst decreases with age. This can lead to dizziness, fainting, muscle cramps, loss of skin elasticity, headache, or confusion. And so again, this is going to be a personalized amount that you need to drink, but you take half your body weight in pounds, and that half of that is in ounces is how much you need to drink. So if you weigh 120 pounds, then drink at least 60 ounces a day. And if we don't like water, again, we can talk about herbal teas, having really hydrating foods like melons and cucumbers, soup, things like that. So we talked a lot about adding fish to our diet, choosing fruits and vegetables and whole grains, decreasing saturated fat and salt. So how are we going to do this here at Horizon House? So here is some takeaways after all that information. So focus on fiber. So think every time you're making a food choice, pick vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. Choose lean proteins, fish, and vegetarian options, because remember, we want to be choosing a healthy protein source at every meal and snack. And keep healthy snacks in your apartment. This will help you make good choices when a hunger craving strikes. So think about always stocking nuts, fruit, yogurt, water, and tea in your apartment to keep easy for you. And then what are we going to do when ordering in the TDR and the bistro? So I've put together some sample menus that follow the guidelines we've been talking about. So just for example, choosing oatmeal, scrambled eggs, fruit cup, and a cup of milk so that you're getting your whole grains, your proteins, your fruit, and your calcium. At lunch, ordering a power bowl and grilled chicken, so you're getting multiple vegetables and a good lean protein source. At dinner, having salmon for your omega-3s, and then choosing 2 different colors of vegetables as your side. And then snacking on Greek yogurt and walnuts for that protein, calcium, and the healthy fat from the walnuts. And all of that comes to less than 1,500 milligrams of fiber or sodium. You're getting plenty of fiber, tons of protein, all in within an kind of a average calorie range there. And then just kind of another example of a day, having a poached egg, hash brown, and a fruit cup. Making some swaps when you're ordering. So if you were going to order the grilled lamb burger, maybe asking for a lettuce wrap or asking if they could put it on whole grain bread instead of the regular bun. And then having that serving of greens and another vegetable with that. Choosing chicken for dinner, doing beans and brown rice and another serving of vegetables. So you're getting the legumes, the whole grains, and vegetables. And then again, snacking on some unsalted nuts. And the final bistro TDR example I put together was if you are a vegetarian or a vegan. So choosing a fruit cup, that next thing should say whole grain toast, not French toast. So adding peanut butter to your whole grain toast. And then I would recommend adding a scoop of vegan protein powder to your oatmeal to kind of boost up the protein content. So this is kind of a hybrid of some items that you could get in the bistro and then adding your protein powder. For lunch, choosing the stir fry and then adding a side of tofu for more protein. For dinner, whole wheat pasta with pesto and vegetables. And then this one does come in a little low on the protein. So when you're choosing your snacks, really make sure you're picking good protein sources. So maybe hummus, nut butters, making a smoothie with a protein powder, or having some trail mix so you can have some extra protein. Okay, so maybe this was a lot of information and you just want to pick one small thing to try. So maybe try reducing saturated fat. You could do that by next time you order a sandwich asking for no cheese or asking for hummus or avocado in place of the cheese. Maybe make a goal to replace one meat-based meal with a fish meal or a vegetarian meal. Or maybe make just a goal of buying some nuts to store in your apartment so that you have a healthy snack option. You might also want to think about your fiber. So a small thing to try would be doing a whole grain wrap or whole grain bread instead of white bread. Getting some berries to add to your cereal in the morning. Switching out crackers for apple slices and peanut butter. So does anyone want to share what small thing they might try after this presentation today? Go back, okay.
Could you flip back to that last chart?
Go back farther, or are you happy here?
That one
Okay.
was helpful.
Hi, I'm ready for you.
Suggestion, buy whole grain pasta at Fred Meyer, not Trader Joe's, instead of white pasta.
Yeah, that's a great swap to make. So try buying whole grain pasta next time you're shopping instead of your regular enriched white pasta. Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to find some way to get that dining room to use brown rice, to offer it at least, instead of always white rice.
Yeah, brown rice was on the always available sides for a while, and I think it comes in and out depending on how much space we have and what other sides we're offering. And then sometimes as part of the daily special, it is on there.
Does Greek yogurt ever come non-fat or low-fat?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions of things that you had up there. You, in one of your final diet options, you have honey, Greek yogurt. Is Greek yogurt more protein than normal yogurt?
Greek yogurt is, some of the liquid is strained out of there, and so it's more concentrated. It does have more protein
So
than
it's got
regular
more
yogurt.
protein, more
Yeah.
calcium?
Yes.
The whey isn't, okay. And then the other thing, you have rice noodles as your last thing. They look awfully white to me, and
Well, yeah, I was, that was a daily special that I picked, because it was a vegetarian option, and so they do have a lot of vegetables in that dish to kind of boost it up a little bit. But you're right, if you were gonna make that yourself, choosing a whole grain noodle instead would be a better choice.
So just to jump in real quick.
Thank you, Steve.
Brown rice will be coming back on the menu, so it'll come back in about 2 weeks or so. You'll see that as one of the added sides. We're going to have a new always available menu coming out in 2 weeks, so brown rice will be one of those.
Oh, look at,
Jump in and add that
good
real
timing.
quick.
You haven't mentioned milk substitutes. The range of substitute milk is amazing.
Yes.
I always drink, or I always take substitute milk. And I try for oat milk. They don't always have it, but anyway, I just wondered what your thought was.
Yeah, I like those too because I don't digest regular milk that well, so I think it's a great option. To be honest, I guess I was being a little lazy because it gets complicated with those. Some of them do not have as much protein as the regular milk, and all of the calcium in those milks is added, so they all have different amounts. So if you are someone that is trying to increase your calcium, you are going to need to read the label of the alternative milk that you're using and see if it's been fortified up to a level that's similar to a dairy milk.
Could I download this from the internet, your presentation?
Yeah, I believe Nick said that these slides would be available. And I think it's going to be on YouTube.
We'll try to make the slide deck available and find a way to be able to either email it to you or to be able to click on it on the Wellness Committee webpage on HH Connect.
I would request that we have more chicken and fish on the TDR diet, because last week we had Asian food and both options were beef. Now, Asians do not eat a lot of beef.
Okay, Steve took note of that.
What is your opinion on energy drinks? When all else fails, you take an Ensure. Is that a sin?
So an energy drink to me makes me think of an added caffeine drink, but you're talking more about like a protein meal replacement shake. I think it's better than not eating.
I have a comment about the TDR. I think our soups are usually very salty, and we can always add salt to soup if it's not salty enough to our taste, but I think having so much salt in them is not a good idea.
Yeah, we always use a low sodium broth to make those. Some of them do have bacon and other things that are just naturally salty in them, but the base is always a low sodium broth, and I don't think we're adding that much salt, are we, Steve? No. Yeah, so it could be some of the other ingredients, like the clam chowder. it's going to be salty. But you're probably not ordering clam chowder if you thought you were being healthy.
Oh, but it tastes so good.
Oh dear. So my question is about the sandwiches in the bistro. What's the chance of having more whole wheat bread, or even whole wheat buns for the hamburgers, which we're not supposed to be eating? And then I'm also wondering about the Impossible Burger. That was a nice alternative to beef, right?
Yeah, I think the Impossible Burger got swapped out for a mushroom burger, and it will eventually swap back in as the menu changes. We just decided to go with the mushroom burger for a while as the alternative. I'll let you speak to more bread options.
Jessica, a question about organics. I'm curious about whether there's any research out there, and I haven't looked, that's been done with a longitudinal, long-term study that is showing any general health benefit from having a lot of organic food in one's diet. Do you know of any?
I don't know of a study that has specifically shown if you eat a lot of organic food, if it benefits you in the long run or not. Yeah, I don't know.
I got it. I buy a lot of organics for home, primarily for ecological reasons, and at times have been feeling very disappointed that we didn't feature organics on the menu, although I realize that adds a lot to costs.
So I'll just touch on the whole wheat. So a lot of the sandwiches are on the 9 grain, which I'm not sure if that is a whole grain or not. I can check with Franz, who's our bread company, and see what they have to offer. And as far as the burger bun goes, we do have a whole wheat or a wheat bun that is for the chicken sandwich that the chicken sandwich automatically comes on. And I believe the portobello does as well, that you can swap to a hamburger if you would like.
Thank you.
For vegetarian options, I know we swapped the Impossible for mushrooms. Is there any reason that we can't have both if we're encouraging to eat less red meat? And those of us that are vegetarians, it would give us a choice, because you really don't want to eat portobello or Impossible every day if you're going to go more than once to the dining room. And I was going to point out that we use farm fish, which is more economical, I understand, but the omega-3s are not the same in the farm fish as they are in the wild-caught fish.
True. I don't know. I think it's just a space issue if we can have both types of alternatives, but it depends on demand. If they're selling, I think that we could have both.
What is a soft-boned fish?
Oh, when it's canned, sometimes canned salmon, they don't debone it. And
Why?
the canning process softens the bones enough that you can eat them.
So it's not that they have more, it's that we're eating
You're
a
just
different
eating
portion.
the whole thing, yeah.
One more question? We'll need to wrap up. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Jessica. Don't leave. And again, we will do everything we can to make the slide deck available to you, and we'll get an announcement in the alert or some way to you to let you know that it is. I earlier asked that you stick around for a few minutes at the end of the program. Until recently, the Wellness Committee had been experimenting with a little ritual at the end of our programs, and because the last 2 programs ran long, we didn't do it. But what I'd like to invite you to do, both for reasons of enhancing your memory of what was important to you that you picked up in this program, or what you want to emphasize for yourself as you consider what you're eating, but also to help continue to develop the social fabric of Horizon House. what I'd like to encourage you to do before you leave is to look around the room and try to spot somebody you don't know. And that would certainly include any new residents here, for many of you, or someone with whom you have only a passing acquaintance or a nodding acquaintance, and approach that person, exchange a couple of pleasantries, and spend just a few minutes talking about what your takeaways were from this program, what you thought was important, even what you thought was admitted, and just have a brief chat about that before you take off into the rest of the world. So I encourage you to do that. Thank you very much for coming. As always, the Wellness Committee welcomes feedback and suggestions, and so feel free to get a hold of me. I would say John, but I don't know how often he's reading his email in Hawaii, and let me know what you thought of this program and any ideas you have for changes, improvements, or additional programs. Thanks very much for coming.